and now they've got a Premier League scalp to boot. They're into the FA Cup quarter-final for the first time since 2015. Tyree Stolen managed to get Blackburn off the mark after they had made a bright start in the first period before Sammy Schmodix, who was impressive throughout, doubled the Blackburn lead, I should say, before Leicester managed to pull one back through Mr. FA Cup Kelechi Iheanacho. But the Foxes' FA Cup journey stops here tonight as they've been beaten. Disappointment all round King Power Stadium. Final score here, Leicester City 1, Blackburn Rovers 2. Jerry, it's fair to say that when Kelechi Iheanacho came on, it felt like Leicester could get back in the game. They managed to pull one back, didn't have enough to pull two back, but I guess the argument would be that they probably left themselves too much to do in the first place. Too much too late, as you say. I think the first half performance and the beginning of the second half, they had a couple of chances obviously in that first half, couldn't quite squeeze the opening. But take nothing away from Blackburn. You know, they came here with a game plan. I thought they carried it out fantastically well for their manager in both halves of the game. Obviously, you're going to come under a bit of pressure. You're away at a Premier League team, and at certain stages of the game, you're going to come away and you're going to come under pressure. And I thought they dealt with that after Iheanacho got Leicester back into the game. I thought they dealt with that pressure very, very well. But another frustrating and disappointing night as far as Leicester City are concerned.
The thoughts there of Jerry Taggart as Leicester City are knocked out of the FA Cup by Blackburn Rovers. More reaction to come here on LCFC TV with Matty Elliott and Ewan Roberts. But first, back to the studio with Dan Bates.
Thanks very much, Niall. Bitterly disappointing evening here at King Power Stadium for Leicester City, who are out of the FA Cup in the fifth round. Matt Elliott, Ewan Roberts and Jerry Taggart will be with us for the next 20 minutes or so as we assess that and then maybe look ahead to Saturday evening's trip to Southampton. But let's start by assessing what we've just seen, Matt. And it is, I've just said it there, really disappointing, very frustrating evening.
Yeah, and I think not just the result and the fact they've gone out of the FA Cup, which is always a big blow. At home against a team in a lower league to what Leicester are competing in, and all those factors come together and make it frustrating and disappointing. Yeah, but also the manner of it really. You have to say, okay, a bit of a late-ish flurry. Iheanacho did make the difference, and I suppose Leicester can take some consolation by saying, well, if they had their absolute strongest team out, probably would have gone through, or would have had a better chance maybe of going through. But Blackburn can counter by saying that as well. But I can't begrudge Blackburn that victory. You can say, okay, Leicester put a bit of pressure on, but Leicester were lucky not to be three down at one stage. Got the goal back, then could have been back to 4-1, etc. And they were asking for trouble really tonight, and that's what they found, unfortunately. And it was a bit deflating, really, and a little bit worrying as well in terms of going forward. We talk about the depth of the squad and the strength of it. On tonight's evidence, I'm not sure that's necessarily the case as much as we believe or have done up to now.
Ewan, at half-time you said you were disappointed in the performance so far. Well, for 20 minutes after that, it kind of only got worse, really. Leicester did then obviously get back into the game, but overall, not a great evening at all.
No, Dan, you can't turn up for 25, 30 minutes in a game and expect to win it. On occasions, you'll get away with that, you will, and it wasn't to be tonight. I mean, for an hour, I thought Blackburn were the better side. They looked hungrier. They looked as if they wanted to get to a quarter-final of an FA Cup more. Desire is a massive thing in football. If you haven't got it, you've got no chance. I thought they showed more desire than Leicester in that first hour. I mean, yes, the lads give it a proper go. when the substitutions were made, when Kelechi came on and Christensen came on at left back, and they gave it a proper go. But it was too late. You know, you're 2-0 down against a very good Championship side who were well organised, who are fit, who have got an energy about them, who will close you down, who won't give you a minute's peace. On another night, you know, Leicester might have got a lifeline and got a second. But let's be fair, I mean, the chances that Blackburn had in that opening, 10 minutes of that second half, I mean, Ryan Hedges had a great chance right at the beginning of the second half and should have scored and should have doubled the away side's lead then. And then obviously Smodic would have gone and scored a third, and it would have been game over. You know, you can't begrudge Blackburn after they performed as they have in the King Power. They've showed respect for Leicester, but not too much respect. You know, they've pressed, they've harried, they've chased, they've closed down. And, you know, I think they deserve to go through to the quarter-final. I really, really do. But I do think, I can't help but feeling that you've got a home tie against a team in a lower division. Yes, a very good side in that division. I do feel as if it's a missed opportunity for Leicester to get to another quarter-final of the FA Cup.
Jerry has come and joined us in the studio here, away from the cold. An eye roll from the other side of the camera there from Jerry. You saw that firsthand, obviously, on co-commentary duty, and it was a really, really disappointing evening.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to sum it up in a different way, Dan, but, you know, unfortunately, you know, I think the first 60, 65 minutes, you know, the Blackburn first tactically, I thought were outstanding. I think the manager had his tactics spot on. Second half, he was even more bold at the beginning of the second half. He went for a high press because you knew Leicester were a little bit methodical and a little bit, you know, pace-wise, a little bit slow in their build-up play, and they just went full press, and Leicester could not handle it. Yes, they did get out that one time, which then led to the Iheanacho goal. But, you know, in fairness, as Ewan has said, Blackburn should have easily scored 2 more goals. I don't know how Ryan Hedges has missed that one where he's burrowing down the centre of the goal. He's probably trying to be too cute, picking out the top corner.
He's trying to find the top corner.
Yeah, instead of just rolling it into the bottom corner, you know, and that's game over. So Leicester have been handed a lifeline on probably 2 occasions, and just give themselves too much to do. Yes, when the subs come on, an instant improvement, but, you know, that mountain, it was just too much to climb. And, you know, it's disappointing because, you know, again, as I've said, it's a great opportunity. You've got a home tie against a team, albeit a good team in the Championship. We said that. And they're missing 2 of their top players, outfield players, and their keeper. But I just thought tactically, I thought John Dahl-Thomason got absolutely spot on tonight. And you're going to come under pressure away from home. You know that the home team are going to make all the substitutions from behind. They're going to just fire everything they can at you. But I thought they dealt with it admirably.
Was there anyone in Leicester colours that impressed you? You knew it was coming. Ricardo, maybe?
Great to see Ricardo back.
Yeah.
Great to see Ricardo back. I thought Everson, you know, he made some big saves. Obviously question marks over the first goal. It's gone down the centre of the goal. And Iheanacho, as soon as he came on, made a difference. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to give it to my favourite player, and that's Ricardo, because it's great to see him back. And at least they give it a go, along with Dewsbury Hall. At least they're trying to do the right things. All right, it didn't always come off, but endeavour for me is everything in a game of football, and Ricardo's got that in spades. So I'm going to give it Ricardo.
Yeah, that was a real positive on a very negative evening, Ewan, wasn't it? The first start for Ricardo, as Jerry says, he was up and down. He never gave up, did he? And he was never probably going to play the 90 minutes due to the fact that he hasn't for so long. So he sort of had to be brought off.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it, Dan. You wouldn't want him to play the 90 minutes. He needed minutes on the pitch. He needed time out there. He got that. He'll benefit massively from the time that he had. And he can go off with his head held high. I'll forgive him even for the second goal. I think it's himself and Daniel Amati who go in and challenge. I think it's Smodic who scores Blackburn second. But I'll forgive him for that. He's been out for such a long time. He's got to break himself in steadily, because the tendency is when you're coming back from a long-term injury, you pick up little niggly things soon after. He's just got to take his time. He's got to look after himself. The club will look after him. They'll give him minutes on the pitch, but then they've just got to make sure that his body's fine, that he's going to be available from now until the end of the season. Because yes, the FA Cup's gone now, and it's that old saying they've got to concentrate on the league and start climbing that Premier League, because still not out of trouble yet. But he can be pleased with the time that he had on the pitch, absolutely.
Final point for you on Ricardo.
He was steady enough, wasn't he? Just to get him back, getting some minutes under his belt, really, first and foremost, to getting a feel for being on the field of play. But he's only going to get better, only going to improve, and that's going to be a positive. One of the few positives tonight. Yeah, we're seeing him out there. He's a quality player. We've spoken before the game about him, and then we're sort of clutching at straws, having to talk about him because he's one of the few positives from the game. But just like quickly going back to the game there. But, the reaction after half time must really have disappointed Brendan Rodgers. We spoke about him even making changes, making substitutions at the half time interval, which is a rarity, but it was definitely feasible and would have been warranted, definitely in hindsight, because it was actually Blackburn who came out stronger, the more positive, more purposeful in the second half, and you're thinking, how's that happening? Because you thought they would have got a little bit of a kick up the backside in half time, a few people giving a bit of a shake and come out and show some sort of reaction, and it wasn't. The opposite happened. If anything, Blackburn got stronger. But it wasn't until we made the substitutes, basically Iheanacho coming on, that the difference was made. And that's got to be a bit of a worry, because those substitutes didn't really impact things too much. Maybe Christensen a touch, but it was Iheanacho who was doing his utmost to become the saviour, really, and he shouldn't need that. And going back to the original point, straight after the end of the game, Blackburn deserved it overall, and there's no disputing that.
Leicester had 22 shots, Matt. Only 5 of them on target. Is that a little bit of the problem as well, do you think?
You can be
you
mistaken
think about
by stats.
Obviously the one that hit the post, the Mendy chance went really close. Iheanacho went close on a few occasions.
Yeah, they had bits, but weren't threatening enough often enough. I mean, how many shots did Blackburn have? I don't know. Like
14.
14. So that's too many probably to concede against an away team from the Championship. Good team that they are. But it's the quality of chances that's more relative, really. Like any team, Leicester could be more proficient in front of goal. I think, like Tete's opportunity when it's followed up by Pratt, both of those could have been more clinical, and then he might have had a different game. But they weren't, and we didn't. So it's some of it sort of at times, some of those shots would have been smacking of desperation a little bit, because trying to get back into the game. People having shots when they weren't probably on, maybe, or they wouldn't have ordinarily. They try and create something a bit more clear cut. But there's lots of ways you can read into the stats or just the game in general. But overall, they look at that, and I think even the most die-hard Leicester fan, like tonight, like I've mentioned, Jerry and Ewan, you can't begrudge Blackburn going back up the M6, is it? Thanks. Up the M6, you know, with I nearly said with the 3 points in the bag, but that would be foolish, wouldn't it? You know, with the reward of going into the next round, the quarter-final of the FA Cup, and it was deflating. Got deflating tonight. The importance of that game. It was a Tuesday night, and it was an unusual timing of the fixtures. I don't know if it sort of took away from like the sort of magnitude of it. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's fifth round of the FA Cup, and a lot of the performances out there didn't tie in with that level of this competition.
Well, memory serves me right, Ewan. It was Brighton that Leicester beat at this stage of the competition when they went on to win the FA Cup back in 2021. It was a late Iheanacho goal that night, and that's another reason why it's frustrating, is because they were able to do that and grind out a result a few years ago, and they know what grinding out a result in a game like this can do and what implications that can have moving forward in a cup run.
Yeah, I mean, it was the tackling defence for the last 20 minutes. You know, Blackburn, they were penned in their own half. They had to defend for long periods. I thought they did it well, to be fair. And you know, you mentioned the shots on their goal in those stats, and I totally agree with Matty. A lot of them were from 25, 30 yards. The Iheanacho one that goes close, it's a difficult opportunity. The one that Pape Mende hits, he's got to catch it perfectly. It just goes past the post. I think the best move that Leicester had that opened Blackburn out came in the opening few minutes when it was a double save from Ainsley Pearce, where, you know, Dewsbury Hall's driven forward, lovely ball into Vardy, lovely touch from Vardy to Dennis Pratt, who puts it into the path of Tete. I thought that was the best move from a Leicester point of view. You know, Harvey Barnes did well for the Kelechi Iheanacho goal. I can't remember a clear-cut chance, apart from the one that hit the post from, was it Daka, I think, that hit the post. I think that was the clearest chance that they had to get that equaliser. But it just wasn't to be. And, you know, you can't begrudge Blackburn whatsoever. You know, I thought in that first hour, I thought they were outstanding. And I tell you what typifies their performance off, and maybe the difference in performance levels. If you look at that second goal that they score, you've got Gallagher, the centre forward, who's chased Luke Thomas down that left-hand side. He must have run 40 yards. He's put a great tackle in on the halfway line. That's work rate. That's desire. That's hunger. He's turned. He's carried it forward. I think he's gone past Sumari. He's laid it into Smodic, who's gone through and scored the second. And that's why they're in the quarter-final, because I just think they wanted it more on the night, Dan. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, they did seem like they really wanted it, Jerry, tonight, Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah, their attitude from start to finish was excellent. I mean, the work rate, the tactics, I've already mentioned it, that Thompson employed, worked an absolute treat. Leicester continually wanted to play out the back, but there was no pace in that play. There was no pace in that build-up. And because of Blackburn had their noses in front, you know, going into the first half, they'll come out the second. And fair play to the manager, I have to say, he didn't show all his cards tonight in that first half. He kept a little something behind for the beginning of the second half. And he obviously realised that Leicester are really lethargic in the build-up play. So if you're going to play that style of football, then you have to be slick with your passing, and it has to happen quick. And also you've got to have players who on the ball are confident of playing that style under pressure. At the minute, or tonight, I didn't see that with Leicester. So at half-time, he's gone in, he says, right lads, we're going to full press, we're just going to press the life out of them. Give me everything you've got for 25, 30 minutes, then I'll make the changes. And that's exactly what Sam Gallagher did. He worked his socks off in that second half. And obviously the second goal comes from him doing that and pinching the ball off Luke Thomas on that left-hand side. As I said, it could have been more, easily. But, you know, fair play to the manager with his tactics, because I think he got it spot on.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester probably wouldn't have deserved extra time, really, would they?
Well,
if they'd have nicked it through that Amati header.
Yeah, listen, they weren't a million miles away from it, were they? It's irrelevant whether you actually deserve it or not. It's what you get. But overall, Blackburn warranted what they got, however that was achieved. But I think they, talking about deserving things, I think that they deserved to go through as victors tonight. Leicester, all things considered, that was a deflating performance, wasn't it? I think for the vast majority of the game. Brendan Rodgers, at the point I was going to make in the previous time you came to me, was, in hindsight, he probably wishes he'd made the changes at half time. Yeah, because they
clearly worked.
Well, the game probably would have turned a little bit, because Blackburn backs to the wall and defending what they've got is a natural consequence a little bit. But of course, there was an impact, particularly from Iheanacho. There's reasons why Iheanacho wasn't starting tonight, and pretty obvious. Looking forward to the weekend, etc. So, but I think Brendan Rodgers would have very much liked to have still been in the hat to go through to the next round, and it's not to be. It's not to be. He knows how important this competition can be and how rewarding it can be. But Leicester have to go again now, don't they? A little bit, and it's funny how things change so quickly. We're all a little bit dramatic. They go and get a result of the weekend, and then it's a little bit of a distant memory already. This defeat, because only one team can go and win the FA Cup eventually, whatever the outcome. But it's they picked up against Villa, didn't they? A good result. Tottenham seems a long time ago now. All of a sudden, now they've got to do their utmost to make Blackburn and Arsenal seem a long time ago.
Elsewhere there were wins for Brighton, for Fulham, and it looks as if for Manchester City as well this evening. There's a few minutes left in that one still, but they are 3-0 up. Southampton, obviously Saturday's opponents. They're in action tomorrow in the FA Cup. They play at home to Grimsby. It's a 5:30 kickoff though on Saturday. For that trip down to the south coast. As ever, you can watch it on Matchday Live. That will be on from 4:30, so do join us for that. We'll have David Nugent, Matty Fryatt and James Scowcroft, 3 attacking players, which makes a nice change from Matt and Jerry as usual. Saturday for us, so do join us for that. Then on extra time, it'll go back to the usual Matt Elliott and Ewan Roberts again.
Usual
as we
dullness.
talk about hopefully a victory down at Southampton, and then you can also listen to Matt and Jerry in conversation with Steve Guppy in the Leicester's The Place podcast. You can either watch that episode on YouTube or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. But that's everything. That's all we've got time for here this evening in the FA Cup, where overall it's been a really disappointing, bitterly disappointing evening for Leicester City as they are out of the FA Cup. Good night.
Did I go on there?